I am here tonight with what happened in 1972 baseball, week 3. This is my APC 1972 Major League uh, Baseball replaying. Starts off on Monday night with the Montreal Expos at Dodger Stadium. Don Sutton's pitching. Now, Don Sutton was the Cy Young Award winner last year, and sorry I misspoke. It's Philadelphia playing Los Angeles on Monday. In Don Sutton's previous start against the Expos, he pitched a one hitter. He had a perfect game through 6. Then Ken Singleton opened up the 7th with a single, and with 1 out, Singleton was erased on a double play. After that, Sutton pitched a perfect 8th and 9th inning. So he pitched a one hitter, facing the minimum 27 batters for his win. So how do you follow that up? Well, on Monday night at Dodger Stadium, the Philadelphia Phillies came to town, and Don Sutton threw a no-hitter. Wasn't quite as sharp in this game as he was in the near-perfect game. He obviously pitched 9 innings, gave up no hits, but he walked 2, he struck out 9. It took him 111 pitches. Let me see what he did in the game before that. Game against Montreal. He pitched 100, threw 106 pitches that game. I got confused for a second because that no hitter was bookended by 2 games with Montreal. The one hit shutout before, and then it was followed by a win on Saturday. Or I'm sorry, on Sunday. I'm like all over the place here. When the Dodgers were in Montreal and they beat the Expos 6-3. And the first hit of that game was in the second inning by Tim Foley. That game, the Expos scored 3 runs on 7 hits. Sutton is 3-1 right now. And the Dodgers are in first place in the NL West. They're 3.5 games ahead of second place Cincinnati and 4 games ahead of third place Houston Astros. The New York Mets last week won all 6 games that they played, and they have a 7-game winning streak right now. They have jumped their record to 13-5, and they're in first place in the NL East. They're a game and a half ahead of second place Chicago, and 3 games ahead of third place Pittsburgh. One negative thing for the Mets is that Rusty Staub, who came over to trade with Montreal during the off season, hurt his back on Monday, and he's expected to be out for about 6 weeks. He's hitting 313 right now with 3 home runs and 12 runs batted in. He's having a pretty good year at Shea Stadium. The other big story with the Mets broke on Friday out of Long Island that it's reported that the Mets and the Giants are very close to a trade, with Willie Mays coming from the Giants to the Mets. And right now it seems like the only thing that may be holding up the deal is that the Giants want a regular starting pitcher for Mays, maybe John Matlack or Jerry Koosman. And the Mets are saying no. And the thought is that the pitcher that they throw in might be Jim McAndrew. Now, the sporting news, Dick Young's column said that the Giants and the Mets had a waiver deal put together for Mays last season. But Horace Stoneham of the Giants backed out at the last minute because of the Giants having a successful season last year. And they might be willing to this year because of the strike. And Horace Stoneham has said that Giants' attendance has been lousy and he can't really afford to pay Willie Mays what he feels Mays is worth. And Mays got off to a slow start this year. He was the MVP last year, but he got off to a slow start this year. And the Giants brought up Gary Maddox from Phoenix in a move that was being compared somewhat to when Willie Mays was brought up by the New York Giants in '51 from Minneapolis. And since then, Mays has basically been sitting on the bench. And apparently there's been some bad blood developed between him and Charlie Fox, the Giants manager, to the point where Giants management brought in Herman Franks, an old Mays teammate in both New York and San Francisco, to try to like smooth the waters between Fox and Mays. But it sounds like Mays will be coming back to New York, and he sounds excited about it because he always liked playing in New York. Fans love him in New York. They love him in New York in a way that they never really did in San Francisco. And I mean, it can't be ignored either that the Mets got a pretty good young team, and they're better than the Giants right now. The Giants are been struggling all year. They're in fifth place with only the Padres behind them. They do have a 3-game winning streak going on right now. And then Willie McCovey is out with a broken hand. He had an injury-plagued 1971 season, and he only got into 4 games with the Giants this year, and he's expected to be out until early June. And they brought up Gary Maddox, like I mentioned. He's hitting .263. He has a home run, 1 run batted in. He stole 1 base. He's an excellent outfielder. And Willie Mays, I don't know, it's starting to look like Father Time might be catching up with him. He's a 6-time MVP winner in my APC universe. And I mean, last year at the age of 40, he was the MVP at 306 with 21 home runs. Drove in 89. He had more walks than strikeouts. He stole 33 bases. He had a great year. I mean, the only year really that he really struggled, it looked like, was 1969 when he only got into 86 games. He only hit 8 home runs that year. I'm looking at his career totals, and that looks like the only subpar year that he had. And like I said, he was injury plagued. But he can't. That was in 69. That was coming off an MVP season in 68. But then he rebounded strongly in 1970 and 71. 68, he was the MVP. He was tied with Henry Aaron. They shared the MVP that year. So Willie Mays, it looks like he may be back in New York soon. It looks like they're hammering out the details of who the Mets are gonna send over. The Giants do need some pitching. Sam McDowell came over from Cleveland. He's pitching all right. He's having a little bit of shoulder trouble. Juan Marichal is pitching all right. Doesn't look like anybody on her team is like really pitching all that great. And like I said, they're in 5th place in the NL West. They're 6 games back. Let me just look real quick what they did last year. Yeah, they were 92 and 72. They were in 2nd place behind the Dodgers last season. I mean, it was pretty distant. The Dodgers won 103 games last year, so they were about 11 games back, but they were in 2nd place. All right, I'm going to to take a time out for a moment. All right, and we're back. We move on to Pittsburgh, where Monday night at Three Rivers Stadium, the Pirates were having a slugfest with Houston. Pittsburgh was leading 6-4, and then in the top of the eighth, Lee May hit a two-run homer to tie the game. That was May's fifth home run of the year. He's having quite a good year after coming over from Houston. So we go in the 10th inning, tied at 2, or tied at 6 rather, I'm sorry. And with one on and one out, Jim Wynn hit a two-run home run to put Houston up 8-6. Jim Wynn is having a pretty good year. I was reading about his year last year, and I'll have to look up his exact stats, but apparently in early 1971, late 1970, early 71, around Christmas time, he was having marital problems, and they were having some kind of family function, and he got into an argument with his wife, now his ex-wife, and she stabbed him. He played it off, like it was no big deal. If we were home by ourselves, I would have just drove to the hospital, but my brother insisted on calling an ambulance and all that. I had not heard that story, and he was having a lot of trouble with his manager, Harry Walker, very similar to trouble that Joe Morgan was having with him. They were calling Joe Morgan a bad influence on Wynn, and when asked about it, Joe Morgan said that, it's funny that they never said I was a good influence on him when he had a good year, but when he's going rough, I'm suddenly a bad influence. So in that game, going to the bottom of the 10th, Houston suddenly leads 8-6. And then the Pirates rally. They load the bases with nobody out. Roberto Clemente hits a sacrifice fly. Scores Willie Stargell. 1 out. Houston 8, Pittsburgh 7. Then Manny Sanguin grounds into a force play. That moves Richie Hebner to third. 2 outs. Then Gene Alley, who is still well known in Houston for a big home run he got in Game 5 of the World Series last year. Singles, tying the game. And then Gene Klein walks and Dave Cash singles, scoring Manny Sanguin. Pittsburgh 9, Houston 8. Pretty good game for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wins the night after, too. Another one-run game. They beat Houston 5-4. Then they go to Cincinnati, and they get swept. So that drops their record to, they go from 10-5, they're now 10-8. And they're now in third place. They're 3 games behind New York. But they're not looking bad. Their starting pitching, well, Steve Blass is off to a bad start, but Bob Moose, Doc Ellis, and Nelson Bryles are having decent years right now. Roberto Clemente, the World Series MVP last year, he is 45 hits away from hit number 3,000. Barring any injury or anything like that, I expect him to get his 3,000 hits sometime in June. He is he's scuffling a little bit at the plate. He's hitting 215 right now. He's 2 for 17 in the month of May. And just for a point of context, I'm going through the games of May 7th right now. So the Pirates have a 3-game losing streak going, and next up they face, let's see, they go to Atlanta. Let's see, what's next on my note card? Baltimore. Baltimore's stumbling right now. They've lost 3 out of 4. They only got in 4 games this week. They had a rain out in Baltimore against Chicago. Then they lost to Chicago 6-5. Then Kansas City came to town. Kansas City's surprising a few people this year. Kansas City took 2 out of 3 from Baltimore. So Baltimore's lost 3 out of their last 4. And that allowed the Indians, who had a good week this week, they won 4 out of 5. And they have a 4-game winning streak. They made their first trip to Texas. And they lost the first game when former Indian Mike Paul, Rich Hand, threw 6 solid innings against them. And another former Indian, Ted Ford, hit a home run. And Texas beat Cleveland 2-1. And Milt Wilcox took the loss despite him having a good start. Then on Wednesday, the Indians beat Texas 4-2. That started out as a pitcher's duel between rookie Dick Tidrow against more experienced Dick Bosman. And it was scoreless through 7. And then the Indians finally put together some hits, and they scored 4 runs in the 8th. They took a 4-0 lead, and then Ed Farmer was pitching in relief. Tidrow had been removed for a pinch hitter. And Texas scored 2 in the 8th, but the Indians held on for a 4-2 win. And Tidrow had his second good start in a row, but he came away with no decision. Ed Farmer got the win. Then Chicago came to Cleveland for the weekend, and Cleveland's pitching staff is kind of like, trying to think of the word. With Gaylord Perry being hurt, it left them with only 8 pitchers right now. So their pitching staff was a little bit in flux. Vince Colbert made his first start of the year. and he pitched a complete game shutout against Chicago on Friday night, 2-0. Tom Bradley took the loss for Chicago. He's 2-3. He had a good start too. In fact, the Indians only got 4 hits in the game, but they were able to put together 2 runs, and Colbert shut out the White Sox. Then on Saturday, Stan Bonson pitched against Ray Lamb, and this was probably Bonson's first good start since he came over from the Yankees. And the White Sox had scored a run in the fourth when Dick Allen hit a home run. And the White Sox were carrying a 1-0 lead into the bottom of the eighth. And then the Indians just suddenly put it together. Getting, 5 hits and scoring 4 runs, and they won the game 1-0 or 4-1. And former Indian Vicente Romo got the blown save in the loss for the White Sox, while Ray Lamb got the win, going 8 innings, giving up only 4 hits and 1 run. And Denny Riddleberger, who's been real hot and cold this year in relief, got the save. Then on Sunday, Cleveland looking for the sweep. Looking for the sweep against the defending AL West champions. Indians got on the board first. They scored 1 in the third, 1 in the sixth. Chicago scratches out a run in the seventh when Mike Andrews singled in Pat Kelly. I'm sorry, he scratched out a hit and scored Carlos May. So Cleveland 2-1. They're hanging on, with a 2-1 lead. Then in the eighth inning, Cleveland gets an insurance run when Eddie Leone, who's been struggling at the plate this year, singled in an insurance run. So the Indians go into the ninth inning. They're leading 3-1. But the White Sox rally, and with 2 outs, bases loaded, Steve Mingori's pitching. Pinch hitter Walt Williams singles. That scores Pat Kelly and Dick Allen. Ties the game 3-3. Like, oh boy, it's like 1971 all over again, where the Indians might scratch out a win and the bullpen comes in and blows it. So in the bottom of the ninth, Tom McCraw, longtime member of the White Sox, comes up, and he hits a home run to end the game. Indians sweep the White Sox. They have a 4-game winning streak. They have a plus 500 record. They're 9-8. They are in second place, 3 games behind Baltimore. It's like it feels like a total opposite of what was going on with the Indians last season. And then Chuck Tanner, was talking about the Indians like, they're a good young team, and he recalled that during the off season, back in I think in February, the Indians' old ownership group had a banquet in Youngstown, and I don't know if it was like an awards thing or something, but Chuck Tanner was a guest speaker at it. I mean, he had spent some time playing with the Indians, and he was the manager of the team that won the AL West. That surprised a lot of people. And he was saying that already at this point in February, that he thought the Indians were already the most improved team in the majors based on like the talent that they were bringing in via trades. They made a lot of trades during the offseason and with guys coming up from Wichita. And they had a new young manager, Ken Aspromonte, who had managed a bunch of these guys in Wichita. So he said, watch out for Cleveland. And Ken Aspromonte, right from the beginning of the season, has been saying, this team could be a second place team. This team could be a second place team. Now, I know the season's only 3 weeks old, but after suffering through the Indians' 1969 and 1971 seasons, and just remembering, like, that this 72 was the first year that my dad was taking me down to the ballpark. First year I collected baseball cards. First year I was, like, really following the sport. And I'm thinking, man, this is going pretty good so far. I hate to sound like a homer, but 3 weeks in, I'm happy with like the Indians' progress. I'm going to move to the AL West now. California. California got off to an 8-2 start this season. They were leading the AL West. 8-2. I mean, they were playing Texas, Minnesota, and Milwaukee, but those wins are still wins in the standings. But since then, they've gone 1-6. They were 8-2, and then they went to Baltimore, and Baltimore slammed the door on them, sweeping them in 3 games. Then they got one game in New York, loss. Then Milwaukee came out to Anaheim. The Angels broke a 4-game losing streak, but then Milwaukee won 2 in a row, including winning on Sunday 5-4 in 10 innings. So the Angels, after that hot start, they've dropped to 4th place. I mean, they're only a game and a half out of first behind Oakland. And the surprising Kansas City Royals are 11-8. They're in second place. They're a half game back. Oakland only got 3 games in this week. Their Tuesday and Wednesday games against Boston got rained out. And New York came in over the weekend, and Oakland took 2 out of 3. In fact, they won yesterday 20-2. Where Bert Campaneris got 4 hits, 4 for 7. Angel Manguel just called up from the minors, 4 for 5 with 4 RBIs. Reggie Jackson, 2 for 6, or 2 for 5 with 6 runs batted in. They just annihilated the Yankees. They just really beat up on Mike Kekich, Rich Hinton, and Jim Rollin. In fact, Jim Rollin had just went to the Yankees from Oakland a week ago, maybe. Blue Moon Odom gave up 4 hits, pitched a complete game, gave up 2 runs. One of those was earned. So the Yankees won 20-2. Yankees are 9-5, and Catfish Hunter has 5 of those wins. Mike Hegan of Oakland is leading the American League in hitting right now with a 410 average. And also in Oakland, Vita Blue ended his holdout. Came to an agreement with Charlie O'Finley. I think he signed his contract, and now he's working out. And they're, well, let's see. They're looking at him joining the team probably in about 2 weeks. They're probably going to activate him in about 2 weeks. And Jim Rowland, who got his butt kicked by. He was traded from Oakland to New York on April 28th, so a little over a week ago. Oakland still has Denny McLain on the disabled list. He's expected to be out for about 2 more weeks. Dick Green hurt his back. He's out, maybe for the season. There's talk like he might retire. He's been making noise about retiring and going and running his family moving business. He's either in South Dakota or North Dakota. I don't remember. I want to say he lives in South Dakota. So they don't know if he's going to be back this season or not. But they seem like they're Dick Williams, the manager, seems like he's making the right moves right now. Last season, Oakland finished. They had 95 wins. They finished in second place. In fact, that was the only real competitive race I had last year was between Oakland and Chicago. And Chicago, I think, ended up winning by 4 games. Chicago won 99 games last year. The rest of the races were practically decided in August, and that was the only one that seemed like it had legs, and Oakland kind of faded at the end of the year. Chicago struggled a little bit at the end of the year, but not to the degree that Oakland did. And then let's see here. Thursday night in Milwaukee, Nolan Ryan of the Angels beat the Brewers 4-1. Ryan struck out 14 batters. He's made 4 starts this year for the Angels. And he's gotten at least 11 strikeouts in all 4 of those starts. He's had 2 starts with 11 strikeouts, 1 with 12, and 1 with 14. He has a 2-1 record right now with an ERA of 3 point. Threw 11 strikeouts against Minnesota, 12 against Texas, 11 against Baltimore, and 14 against Milwaukee. Let me dig up his record with the Mets. Yeah, it must be the change of scenery with Del Rice is his manager now. Ray Ripplemeyer is his pitching coach. He's he was a hard thrower with the Mets, obviously, but he never had a season in the National League. Where he had more strikeouts than innings pitched. Well, I take that back. He had in 1969 he pitched 50 and two-thirds innings, gave up 56 strikeouts. Other than that, he never had a season in the National League where he had more strikeouts than innings pitched. Not so with the Angels. He's pitched 33 innings so far this year, and he struck out 48 hitters already. He yeah, what the getting away from Gil Hodges and Rube Walker, I think, may have really been a benefit for him. They never seemed like they knew what to do with him or how to handle him. And he was not very shy about saying that him and his wife did not like living in New York either. So the change may have been beneficial to him. And then another pitcher who changed scenery, Steve Carlton, coming over to Philadelphia from St. Louis. He only has a record of 1-2, but on Saturday against the Giants, he struck out 10. In a game before that, April 25th against the Giants, he struck out 12. He's pitching better. And he's also been benefiting from being with a different team. They've kind of they changed his pitching philosophy a little bit. That he was pitching a all right, I'm going to take a quick timeout. All right, I'm back. I apologize. I just wanted to double check. Steve Carlton, they changed his pitching philosophy a little bit with the Phillies. They were looking at his slider, and now he's with the Phillies. He's pitching to Tim McCarver, who had been one of the Cardinals catchers, also when Carlton was there. And they noticed that he's got a little bit more control over his slider. So they decided that he should mix up his slider and his curveball, but still throw fastballs at the same rate that he would. So not rely on the slider, but use it when the hitters might be expecting a curver. And him and McCarver have been working on that, and it's been working out real well for him. He's suddenly like throwing with more finesse than he did with the Cardinals. Cardinals, he was more of a thrower, and he's becoming more of a pitcher with the Phillies. And right now, that's looking like a trade that might work out well for both teams because Wise is doing a job for the Cardinals. In fact, Rick Wise on Sunday, Cardinals are playing the Braves, and Rick Wise gives up career home run number 598 against Henry Aaron. So Aaron needs two to reach 600. That would put him and Willie Mays as the only two players with at least 3,000 hits, 600 home runs. Aaron's way behind on home runs in my APC universe. Than in real life at this point, I think he had about 630 home runs. So he's way behind that, but he's a solid player in my APC universe. When I'm playing as a Dodgers, boy, I hate seeing him come up to the plate. Because I remember, like, when the designated hitter started and he came to the Brewers, I actually got a chance to see him play a couple game in a couple of games where the Brewers were playing the Indians. In fact, one of the few night games that we went to when I was a kid was a game where the Indians played Milwaukee. I saw Henry Aaron hit a home run. I was kind of impressed with that because as a kid, one of my earliest baseball memories was at the end of the 1973 season, following in the paper as Aaron was like approaching Babe Ruth's home run record. And then I got two more notes here. Ted Simmons of the Cardinals and Cesar Cedeno of the Astros each have a 17-game hitting streak. They've each gotten a hit in every game they've played in this year. So they're both off to some strong starts. Let me see what the Cardinals are doing. Cardinals are 8-11. They're in fifth place in the NL East. They're 5.5 games back. And I might as well check what Rick Wise is doing on the year. He's 1-4 with a 5.97 ERA. I don't know, for whatever reason, I thought he was pitching a little bit better than that. Maybe I was thinking of somebody else. He's been giving up a lot of hits. So maybe he has to adjust to his new place in St. Louis. And the Astros are in third place. They're 9-9, 4 games behind LA, and Cedeno's hitting .441 on the season. And Ted Simmons leading the majors. He's hitting .448. So, I mean, I'm sure that won't last, but I got a feeling that both St. Louis and Houston will be teams that I have to be reckoned with this year. The NL East, I think, might be pretty competitive with everybody except Montreal. If St. Louis could snap out of whatever's holding them back right now. I mean, Philadelphia, it's well known that they were a lousy team in '72, but they're off to a 9-11 start for me. They're only 5 games out. I got a feeling they might sink like a stone, but for right now, there's nobody off to like a terrible, terrible start. Team with the worst record is Milwaukee. They're 5-9. Texas is 7-11. Montreal 7-10, and San Diego 6-15. I mean, I don't expect anything out of any of those four teams, but they could be spoilers down the road. And in Kansas City, the group in charge of overseeing the construction of the Harry S. Truman Sports Complex have already told the Royals that there's no way that they're going to be able to play in their new ballpark anytime in 1972. They're not even sure that the Chiefs Stadium will be ready for the exhibition stadium or the exhibition season for the NFL, but they figure the Chiefs will be able to play there for the regular season. So the Royals will be stuck at Municipal Stadium for the rest of the year. They know it, and they're looks like they're like, yeah, who cares? We're 11-8. We're a half game out. We're a team in our fourth season, and we're looking like a contender. Bob Lemon is like the manager. Is like, these guys are good. I've been telling people for the last 2 years, you know, we got a good club here, and it's starting to show on the field. So that is my wrap up for week 3 of the 1972 season. Hope you're enjoying following this season, and thank you for watching.